It is a thunker.
What is going on, YouTube? Carter here with Edged Mindset. Thank you for joining me. We are looking at the PMP Beast Prime. I'm really happy about this one, guys. I think you're going to like it quite a bit. In my opinion, it is the strongest offering in the Beast series for regular people, if that makes any sense. So their flagship model is the Alpha Beast, which is the super crazy, ridiculously thick model. It's awesome for novelty's sake. It's awesome if you like really, really heavy, beefy knives. But I think the general population would say it's unusable and it's ridiculous. This one toes the line a little bit better. You still get all of this beefy goodness, but it's more usable and, in my opinion, more aesthetically pleasing, along with great materials. I think you might feel the same as well. We're going to dive into this knife. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to do some specs, and then I'm also going to point out things that I don't love about this knife, and one thing that is downright potentially dangerous with this knife. So you're going to want to stay tuned to that. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I think it's important that you weigh all these things in case you're wanting to pick one of these up. Let's do some specs. 4-inch blade, just over 9 1/8 inches overall. Let's compare it to the tried and true Paramilitary 2. You can see it's a big boy. A lot of people say the Para 2 is big. This dwarfs the Para 2. Makes it look like a little baby knife. Oh man, that was a terrible, terrible. That wasn't even an impression. That was just me being weird. Let's get some measurements on the handle. What are we looking at? 0.66 inches. Thick boy. Let's look at the blade. 0.23. Almost 1/4 of an inch. And let's do blade width. It is 1.5 inches, just over 1.5 inches blade width. So this is a monster, Big Daddy, Prime, Beast. What other words can I use? 8.7 ounces, so reasonably heavy. Not as bad as you might think. That's because the handle tapers down pretty thin, and it's nice and skeletonized inside. Ooh la la. This is made in China. Let's get that off of the table, off of the chest. Made in China, overseas made knife. This one's a little bit more souped up in terms of materials than your typical PMP knives. Usually they've ran D2 in the past. This one is CPM 3V. Now you might be saying, hey, that's an uncoated blade. That's uncoated 3V. It's going to rust. I doubt it. You'll probably be fine, but it is possible. So keep that in mind. If you are in a humid environment, if you are a super sweaty boy, if there's salt in the air, if you live by the coast, be aware of that because this could potentially corrode. 3V is not very corrosive resistant. Now, it's not bead blasted or anything crazy like that, which is good, but it's still uncoated on the blade. We're running titanium handles. This one has a nice blue anodization with the stonewash popping through. I really, really like it. Pivot screws blasted. Body screws, pockets, all the other screws are not blasted. They're a little bit shiny. It would be nice if they kind of matched that just to make it look homogeneous. Lock bar insert with an exposed screw here. You've got some nice chamfering in there so you can get to this lock bar super easily. I really like that. I hate it when it feels like you're barely catching that lock bar. It is I wouldn't say sharp, but that is kind of an angle. So if you have delicate thumb pads, it might cause an issue. Hopefully not. Titanium backspacer with an integrated lanyard hole right there. You can get any lanyard through this. Anything will go through that. Really cool. Milled pocket clip. It's a little on the large side. It works very, very well. I've had no issues. It also doesn't sit particularly low. There's quite a bit exposed. If that's a problem, if you don't like that, take that into account. You've got some cool design flourishes on this pocket clip that match the milled cutouts on the blade for weight reduction as well as design. Weight reduction, even though this is a heavy, heavy blade. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Looks kind of cool. This also kind of looks like a butcher knife or something. I don't know if that was intentional or if it just is what it is. One of the things when we're talking about looks that I really, really like about this knife is the angles and the sharpness and the geometry of the blade contrasted with the more organic handle. I think it looks really, really good. In my opinion, this is the best looking PMP knife out there. That's just my opinion. I think it looks the best, and I think it's the most practical out of all the big beefy knives that they offer. Ergonomics are fantastic. It feels like it's contoured, even though I don't think it is. It just has these big chamfers right here, which kind of do the same thing. And it kind of mimics contouring. You've got it all along here with this great organic shape that fills right into the hand. Thumb goes right on this very aggressive jimping, which to me is perfect. Some may say it's a little too aggressive. I don't think anybody's going to say it's not aggressive enough. On the blade, compound grind with a deep hollow grind. Nice and thin on this edge. Is it the thinnest? No, but I wouldn't want it any thinner on a knife like this, where you would use this for like heavy duty prying and cutting through serious material. This is as thin and as hollow grind as I would ever want it. Flat ground on the tip here, nice and thick. You can see how stout that tip is. You can pry things. You can bore a hole through some wood. This will do anything you want it to do. I also like this swedge up top, how it mirrors the grind lines on this flat area here, creating this angular point. Looks like a sword or something. Looks like the sword, the Berserk sword, the Dragon Slayer. That's what it reminds me of from the comic series or the anime Berserk. Looks like the tip of that sword. Looks really, really cool and very, very functional for doing some heavy duty work. Listen to how this thing opens up. It is a thunker. Oh, it is so loud. It engages with this big stop pin that acts as the closed position stop and the open position stop. Nice and shouldered right here. So you are going to get maximum engagement. It's going to prevent any sort of lock modification from using it hard or opening it up. This should not affect the lockup. Even if you're cutting through some heavy duty stuff and putting a lot of rearward pressure on this blade, it shouldn't settle or adjust the lockup at all. If this was flat back here, it would start to form an indent. This blade would start moving back 1/4 millimeter, and that would affect the way this locks up. Or if it was running thumb studs engaging with flat titanium, it would start indenting the titanium and doing the same thing. But because it's steel on steel and it is contoured like this, shouldn't have any problems. So great call on that for this particular hard use style knife. It's running on multi-row bearings, so it just flies open. Now I could argue that I would prefer this to be on washers. Big, beefy, heavy duty blades. I don't know if I like them being on bearings. I don't think everything should be on bearings just because you can. Your opinion may vary. That's just mine. It is fun to flick it open though. Ceramic detent ball, so it's not going to wear out. Really good stuff. So overall, I think this is an excellent, excellent choice in the Beast knife series. Probably the best one in my opinion. Maybe it's just because I really like it and it's the newest one I got, but I think it is really, really cool. Looks cool, very functional. Let's get to the bad. These body screws, I wish they were bigger. They're T6, they should be T8. Makes me nervous. I also don't love how they screw into titanium. I'd prefer them to screw into steel within the backspacer here. I like steel on steel when possible. I'm sure it's fine. Just kind of a pet peeve. The other thing is the detent is very stout out of the box. It takes a while to even be able to flick this open, and that is because this lock bar has a lot of tension. I assume to make sure that the blade stays in place because it's so heavy. It's kind of a give and take. If you want a strong detent, then it's going to be difficult to fling it open. Now you can take some of the tension off of this lock bar, which will lighten that detent up, make it easier to open, but then it'll be easier to fall out. So it's up to you. Just something to take note of. Now the big issue, the potentially dangerous issue, is the blade sticks out of the back. Not sticks out, but it's very close. I can feel the blade right there. And then it only gets worse. If you run your finger up here, you are going to get cut. If I push this up, it's going to slice open my finger, and not by a little bit. It will cut it open. And so if you're in the store and you're trying to get some change or something in your pocket and you run your hand down and it fits in that gap, it's a pretty big gap. this is a thick blade, you could pull your hand out and it could be bleeding everywhere. I actually did that on the Evolution 3, the CKF Evo 3, which has a similar issue. I was just looking at it and there was something on the back here, and I just rubbed it and I pull off my finger and it's just bleeding. That particular knife has the same exact issue, except that one has a smaller gap. So something to be aware of. Take that into account. Could be a potential issue. Only way to fix it would be to make a more narrow blade or a wider handle, or possibly move the pivot forward, which would then mean it's wider in the closed position. That would change the look and the form and function of the knife quite a bit. So it is what it is. Take that into account. Let me know down below, what do you think of the Beast Prime? Do you like it? Would you get one? Do you think it's usable? I really want to hear what you guys think. Till the next video, I'm out. Carter with Edge Mindset.